Maiden's got a shade on, sweet Georgia Brown. Two left feet, but also neat has sweet Georgia Brown. They all sigh and wanna die for sweet Georgia Brown. I'll tell you why. You know I don't lie, no, not much. It's been said she knocks 'em dead when she comes into town. Since she came, why it's a shame how she lets 'em down. Oh fellas, she can't get our fellas I've never met. Georgia claims them, Georgia claims old sweet and Georgia Brown. It's got a shade on, sweet Georgia Brown. Two left feet, but also neat as sweet Georgia Brown. They all sigh and want to die for sweet Georgia Brown. Tell you why. You know I don't lie, oh not much. It's been said she knocks 'em dead when she comes into town. Since she came, why it's a shame and she puts them down. Oh fellas, that she can't get, fellas ain't never met. Georgia claims her sweet old Georgia Brown.
All right, we're now going to go on to probably one of Louis Armstrong's greatest hits, which is Hello, Dolly. Introduction. A 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4.
I said hello, Dolly, well hello. Dolly, it's so nice to have you back where you belong. You're looking swell, Dolly, I can tell. Dolly, you're still growing, you're still growing, you're still growing strong. I feel the room swaying while the band keeps on playing one of those old favorite songs from way back when. So take a rap, fellas, find her an empty lap, fellas. Dolly, you'll never go away again. Keeps on playing one of those old favorite songs from way back when. So, golly gee, fella, find her an empty knee, fellas. Dolly, never go away, never, never go away. Oh, Dolly, don't go away again.
Well, Hello, Dolly is the title song from the 1964 musical of the same name, and Lewis's version was a #1 hit in the USA in 1963, and it was introduced into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 2001. Okay. Now, Louis Armstrong was a wonderful, warm-hearted, loved man, a very unaffected man. Although he was sometimes accused of selling out to commercialism by playing the role of the clown. In other words, they thought he might be a latter-day Uncle Tom. Nevertheless, when he went to Africa, the Africans thought he was a black god who had dropped out of the heavens. You can imagine this African-American jazz musician. He actually played a concert in Accra in Ghana in 1956. It was a big moment. He also encountered racism. He refused to play a concert in New Orleans, the city of his birth, because they would not let him have a white trombonist in the band. That was Jack Teagarden. He refused to play. He tried to set up another concert for just African Americans, but they stopped that. He vowed never to go back to New Orleans, and he said, "I don't want to be buried there." In fact, he was buried in New York, but he did, in fact, eventually go back. All right, now I need a rest. I'm exhausted. I've been up since 10 o'clock this morning. So John and Tony are going to play another one of his wonderful hits, A Wonderful World.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and for you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed days and the dark sacred nights. And I say to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're only saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I say to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're only saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I say to myself, what a wonderful world. And I say to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh yeah.
Well, and the first show I did here, I played the beginning of Rhapsody in Blue, And then we went into Birth of the Blues. Now, I thought Tony said, oh, look, if Gershwin can play Rhapsody in Blue, I can certainly play Rhapsody in Blue on the piano. So, Tony, we're now going to feature our fabulous friend and piano player. He's going to play some of Rhapsody in Blue for you on the piano. Okay? The maestro. Off you go. That's Tony Eardley and some of Rhapsody in Blue. A guy called Bowman wrote 12th Street Rag in 1914 while working as a pianist in the bordellos in Kansas City. His rags were all named after the street numbers in the red light district. He told a friend, Raggedy Ed, who ran a pawn shop, that he could get rich on 3 balls. Then he, Bowman, would write a piece of music using 3 notes and it would make himself rich. Louis Armstrong actually performed 12th Street Rag in 1927, but it was a slow sort of foxtrot feel. We'll just demonstrate that briefly. So see, it was a fairly pedestrian sort of tempo, even with the wonderful Louis Armstrong playing. However, the real success story was much faster in the recording in 1948 by Pee Wee Hunt, and that sold over 3 million copies. And ironically, this was also described as a foxtrot. Now I'm going to do something interesting when we play the doo-whacker section on the clarinet. 1, 2, 3, go.
Hey! Good grief. What a load of rubbish. Get him off. Kill it. Heavens above. Yada yada yup, yada yada yup, yada ba da ba ba. Hey!
Thank you. It's now time to talk about the other person we were going to talk about today. That's, of course, Sidney Bechet. He would have seen the young Louis Armstrong busking in the streets in New Orleans when they both go up there. And it's possible that he was threatened by Louis Armstrong's talent. While Louis Armstrong was a very warm-hearted and unaffected man, Sidney Bechet appears to have been quite the opposite. He was described by Albert Nicholson as the most selfish and hard to get along with person, a tough baby, all for himself. He's reputed to have treated women very badly, and in his autobiography, Treated Gentle, ironically, he said that during a duel with a musician who had insulted him by claiming he'd played a wrong note, he accidentally shot a woman. That's a true story. And after spending 11 months in jail, he was deported to New York in 1929. He started on the clarinet, but his ego and imperious style meant that he took up the soprano saxophone because it's louder, and he wanted to dominate the band he was playing and then play as loud as the trumpet. Nevertheless, Sidney Bechet did have his fans, believe it or not. Woody Allen, who, as you may know, plays in the Dixieland band in New York every Monday night, it's called Michael's Pub, called one of his daughters Bechet. I don't know if that's the one he married, but that's true. And he used Bechet's tune Si tu vois ma mère in his film Midnight in Paris. That's If You See My Mum, If You See Me Mum up north, isn't it? Okay. In England, it's sometimes called Lonesome. I'm going to play it for you, okay? Si tu vois ma mère. outside France, Sidney Bechet's best-known composition was Petite Fleur. And after he recorded it in 1959, after he'd recorded it, it was recorded again in 1959 by Monty Sunshine with the Chris Barber Band, and it sold 1 million copies in the UK, and it went to number 4 on Hit Parade. It was also a hit in USA and in Germany. I played with Monty Sunshine in a pub in Dover, and while we were playing, a bit fell off his clarinet, and I picked it up and I said, "Is this yours?" He didn't seem to know what it was. Didn't seem to make a lot of difference. So we will play Petite Fleur. Well, as a little bit of an indulgence, Monty Sunshine wasn't the only clarinet player in England, of course, to enjoy enormous success. Acker Bilk wrote and recorded Stranger on the Shore. And it went to number 1 in the US and then to number 2 in the UK, and it was in the charts for 55 weeks. Acker called it its old age pension, and in fact the crew of Apollo 10 took a recording to the moon. Okay, well, we're now going to play his Stranger on the Shore, inevitably. Well, folks, thank you very much for being a wonderful audience. We've just one more tune to play for you before we finish. And it's probably appropriate that I play that on the soprano saxophone, since we've been talking about Sidney Bechet. And believe it or not, his best known hit actually in France was not Petite Fleur, it was Les Oignons, or onions, okay? Enough to make you cry, isn't it, really, anyway? So we're going to play Les Oignons, and John is going to encourage you to shout Les Oignons, or onions. You can either shout Les Oignons, if you are a francophile, or if you prefer to just say onion, you can do that too.